All right, so the biggest questions in the Eastern Conference, mainly around specific players, and we're doing it for each team. I'm going to start with Bam. So remember that game against the Celtics where Bam had 31, and in the very first possession, it was. I just watched it again. He hit Horford with an in and out dribble into a crossover that led to a layup. There was a time where he had Jaylen Brown in the post. He hit him with a spin move, got his shoulder into him, and then he made a hook shot over him. There was another play where he had a turnaround jumper over Marcus Smart. There was just a clear aggressiveness from Bam, looking to score, and not always against a switch, but also making you pay when you have a smaller guy on him as well, right? Bam had two other pretty good scoring games in that series, but he also had 4 games where he scored 10 or less points, and all of those games were on low shot attempts as well. Pat Riley had a quote not long after the season ended, basically implying Bam has to do more as a scorer, mainly in the playoffs. Regular season, he got up to 19 points a game. And of course, Bam, look, he does so much for Miami's offense with his screen setting and the handoff actions they run with him at the elbow, guys cutting to the rim. We all get that stuff. It's all great. But we're also going to need you to get some buckets as well. And, I'm remembering the first round series against the Bucks, 2 years ago now? Whatever it was when the Bucks beat him. And he attempted so many, 12-footers over Brook Lopez. And maybe he's got to get amazing at those. I know it's pretty basic to say get good at making shots, but that is a shot that it does seem like Bam kind of goes to a lot when he's facing a tougher defense. So maybe it's make that, maybe it's, develop a little bit more to where if Brook Lopez is giving you that space, you can take 2 dribbles into him and then maybe that turns into you spinning off of him or whatever. Like, there's just another level that Bam is going to have to get to as a scorer, even if we can still appreciate all the other things he does for them. The next one is Ben Simmons, and yeah, as of right now, KD and Kyrie are on the team. We'll see. That's all I got there. So I know that some ways that people have described how Simmons could fit in on this team, including me, is the Draymond version of this team, but you're hoping he gives you more points, because of course he's more athletic and younger than Draymond and all that. So he can screen for Kyrie, and then he can dive hard to the rim, and he can get a lot of dump-off passes from those guys. He can be a menace in transition, of course. And then defensively, who wouldn't want a guy who can switch across nearly every position, depending on the team you're facing, of course. With that said, there's 2 things about the Draymond comparison for Ben. Number one, of course, you're going to want him to score more points than what Draymond does for Golden State, and that comes back to Ben's aggressiveness, and we all saw the passed-up dunk. We all saw it. But the second thing is, for Ben to truly be like that, I feel like he has to kind of be the loud guy in the room sometimes, and we all know it's not exactly his personality. Would Steve Nash and the coaching staff and everybody encourage Ben, like, hey, Ben, you're bringing the ball up court, you're calling plays, you're telling guys where to stand, we go from there? Or is it going to be, okay, Kyrie, you bring the ball up on this possession, Ben, you just go kind of do your thing, we'll figure it out? Right then and there, that's a big deal to me. Because remember, there were times in Philadelphia where Ben would bring it up court, throw it to somebody on the wing, and then just kind of go stand in the corner, go stand in the dunker spot, whatever. And it's like, ooh, I really don't want that. Sure, there's times where that can lead to him cutting to the rim or getting a dump-off pass. I get it, but you want more, right? What I would be intrigued by is if Ben is bringing it up court, and then he tells everybody, hey, clear out one corner, Kyrie, you get over here, I'm going to throw you the ball, I'm going to set you a screen, and let's just see what happens because it's only us on this side of the floor, so there's more space and all that. Even Ben putting his imprint on the team like that would go so much farther than him just existing next to Kyrie and KD. Another thing I want is, how about times where Ben just doesn't worry about KD and Kyrie or Seth Curry or whoever? I know Ben's a great passer, but like, what's wrong with they just made a bucket, throw me the ball real quick, and I'm just going to go? Like, who's going to stop me in transition, Or stuff where Nick Claxton sets Ben a screen super early in a possession around half court or whatever. Just really encouraging Ben to do more than just float around and be the guy who passes to KD and Kyrie all day. That's my hope. This one is going to be kind of 2-in-1. It's Al Horford and Brook Lopez because I think they are both the glue of their defenses. Maybe not the best defensive players on their teams, but they allow the other guys to do what they're best at defensively, right? Because with Brook, well, let me just say, they're both old. And Brook, of course, just missed the whole regular season. And these two holding up is going to be really important to these two great defenses, right? I know the Bucks have Ibaka, but Ibaka's just not going to be as good defensively as Brook is for that team. it's kind of similar situations, right? Like Time Lord is able to be the amazing help defender, similar to Giannis, although Giannis can do basically anything you ask him to do. But he is at his best being the help guy next to Brook and his rim protection. He also allows Drew to, fight around screens and stay on the back of the guard. Same thing with Middleton and Wesley Matthews and Grayson Allen, the whole team, right? And Horford does a similar thing. The Bucks got by with Giannis playing a little more center in the regular season, but eventually their defense sort of just caught up with the fact that they didn't have the glue guy. They had to have Bobby Portis playing it, and Bobby's just never going to protect the rim as well as Brook does. And on the Celtics side, the switchability would always be there, even if Horford was hurt or just, a little slower or whatever. That'd be tough to deal with. We go to the Sixers now, Tyrese Maxey. And I'm going to say a bunch of nice things about Maxey, but I'll just say now, the question I have really is just the balance between him and Harden. Because, of course, Harden, he's going to make more decisions than Maxey. He's going to have the ball more, and that's all fine. But will Maxey have moments where it's like, maybe we should run a few extra plays through Maxey and Harden you can spot up, or maybe that's just not going to happen at all. In the playoffs, they had the third slowest pace of everybody. And, it makes sense why. Harden and Embiid, they're both, pretty methodical players. Harden's going to do his dribble for a few seconds before deciding what to do. Of course, if they just lean into the pick and roll game between those two all the time, that speeds things up a little bit. But also Embiid's going to get it on the elbow or the post, and he might do a couple jab steps before going to his mid-range over a guy, or whatever it might be, right? Maxey is the one dude who can just kind of speed them up a bit. And let me be clear, I don't think pace is some magic number that you have to be at the top of the league at or whatever in order to be good. But it doesn't hurt if occasionally Maxey's just going to juice you up in a way that nobody else on this team really is going to be able to, because they just don't have the off-the-catch speed or being as big of a threat in transition as Maxey is, right? I've also brought this up before, and I'll say it again. Maxey and Harden had moments in the playoffs where Maxey was screening for Harden a bit, and that was some pretty interesting stuff. For the Raptors, I think Precious Achiuwa is a pretty big swing piece for them. Precious he's got potential written all over him, man. You see moments where his three ball looks really comfortable. There's times where he's going off the dribble if he's got some daylight off of a screen or whatever, and it looks good. There's times where defensively he'll switch and he's holding up really well. Then there's also times where he might not see the open guy, or if he does, it's a little late, or he will have trouble finishing. That's been a big thing with him in his career so far, the main criticism, I would say. For the Bulls, I'm not going to overthink this one. Vooch just has to make more shots. His three ball and his mid-range were down this previous season, and they just can't have that, because they're running that pick and pop a million times a game. Similarly for Atlanta, I'm also not going to overthink this. It's DeJounte. Atlanta traded a whole bunch of picks to get a guy who can hopefully solve their two biggest problems, right? Which is Trey has to do everything, and they need more defense, especially on the perimeter. I get it. We can all say, well, DeJounte can attack off the catch. When playing off of Trae Young, his catch-and-shoot threes this previous season were pretty much 35% on not a whole lot of attempts, but more than zero. We can talk about how DeJounte's presence could have them lean into Trae Young a little bit more as an off-ball guy. Just want to see it, man. In the case of Cleveland, I think I'll go Karis LeVert because, look, Karis, he likes to cook, and the majority of his shots come from, 11 feet away, which is cool if you make enough of them in. And I guess what I'm wondering is how can Cleveland make his day a little bit easier in getting more open looks? The easy thing to say is you've got Jared Allen and you've got Mobley dive into the basket, which means that just opens up the lane for LeVert, who can get into more of an uncontested floater, or he can just kind of get his shiftiness on all the way for a layup or whatever. There's definitely a formula there. But also, what's the balance between him doing that versus Garland doing a similar thing, and also is Colin Sexton still in the equation? That matters. For the Knicks, it's Randall, body language, shot selection. I think that one's pretty obvious. For Charlotte, you could go with Gordon Hayward's health. You could go with how much are they going to lean into Mark Williams day one, because, of course, the Hornets center rotation, it's not ideal. For the Wizards, look, Porzingis has been the swing piece of every team he's been on. He's going to be the one for them as well, I would say. For Indiana, I'm going to go with Benedict Mathurin. Here's what I know about him. One, he had the quote saying that LeBron is going to have to show me that he's better than me. He did clarify the comments, but those were his initial thoughts. I've seen him make quite a few step-back threes just going through his summer league stuff. I've also seen him take guys off the dribble in some pretty good looking, like kind of straight line drives, but he's also a big dude who's not afraid of physicality and stuff. I'm very intrigued. For the Pistons, I'm going to go Sadiq Bey. So his first year, it was more off ball stuff. Second year, they looked to run more actions through him. And now they got Jaden Ivey, but also Jeremy Grant is gone. So I want to see what the balance is with Sadiq Bey spotting up for Cade and Ivey, but also still being encouraged to do stuff on offense himself with the ball. We'll see. And then finally for Orlando, with Markelle Fultz, look, he's still an awesome ball handler. And I mean, he's like 6'4". Like, you go look at some of the stuff he was doing at the tail end of the season. He's a big guard, man. I mean, he's able to put his body into guys. He can spin off of big dudes effectively. He looks pretty comfortable from mid-range, I would say. As far as the three, I don't know. You can also go Jalen Suggs, who's much better defensively than he is offensively right now.